welcome everybody. This is Pivot Chat number 1. I don't know how many we're going to do. This could be a 2 to 3 month project, and that could be it. Or this could be the beginning of something really long-term in my business. One of the things that I'm really big on talking about and coaching my clients to do is to get started and to jump on in and to experiment with things. And that's, I'm walking my talk with this. It could become a podcast. It could become all different kinds of things. But what I am 100% clear about right now, and something that I've been talking about ad nauseum for my entire 5 years in business, is that when we jump into entrepreneurship, assuming that, and when we jump into doing work that we love, that we feel is deeply personal, deeply meaningful, deeply purposeful in the world, we've embarked on a very epic journey. And I think that's one of the reasons why I love doing mindset coaching so much, and why I work specifically with entrepreneurs and other visionaries, because I think that journey, while super magnificent and we can all make an awesome impact on the world, and can be super fun, and I've had so much fun in the last 5 years, it can also be really hard. It can also be really confusing. It's a creative process to really and truly do what you're here to do on this earth, and to do it at your greatest potential at any given moment in time. And I think it can be a tough experience while also being amazing, just like anything in life, like, getting married or having children. There's highs and lows, and it's everything. So what we're talking about today is Pivot Chats is a conversation that I'm going to be having here with people who are entrepreneurs, are visionaries, are doing work that they love, work that they are uniquely gifted to do, and changing the world in the way that only they can. And we're talking about what happens when things start to shift and change for you. As a business owner, as a practitioner, as a soul. I believe our businesses and our work has to evolve with us. And sometimes one seems to pull the other, and the other seems to pull the one. But if we don't pay attention to how we're growing and evolving over time, we often can feel stuck, burned out, slightly less fulfilled, which, when you're really, really loving the crap out of what you do and it starts to change a little bit, even if it's like at 90%, it can start to affect you, and then therefore it can start to affect your work. And what I'm here to do is to help people keep growing and evolving, and let their work evolve and grow with them over time, so they can keep loving what they do, keep growing that impact, and then of course making some big fat money at the same time. So Allison is our first interviewee, our first guest. Welcome, Allison Dellatore.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being my guinea pig first person. Very brave. And Allison and I have known each other for, at least a couple years now, maybe longer. And so just thank you for trusting me, from you to me. Thank you for trusting me, and for trusting this audience and this community to support us in this conversation. I think it's a really important conversation to have. Mm-hmm. And I think that your transition, your pivot, is, while very unique to you, my feeling about your story and your experience this year is that people will resonate with bits and pieces, if not the whole damn piece, of your pivot, because you've gone through a lot of things that we've all gone through, and people aren't talking about it. So thank you for being vulnerable enough to come on and talk about it. Because I think it's really, really important for people who are running businesses, for people who are doing work. Lots of people are running businesses on their own, and it can get lonely if we don't pay attention, if we don't normalize this experience, which is my intention for these Pivot Chats. So
yeah,
thank you.
Totally. Okay.
So Allison, I'm going to just briefly introduce Allison. I've already got a few comments coming in, which is great because now we know the tech is working. Kathleen Nightingale, hello. And Elisa, hello. Thank you, ladies, for joining us. If you have comments, questions, insights, similar experiences, whatever you want to share, those of you who are watching, whether you're live or watching the replay links, wherever in the world you are, put your thoughts here, and we'll come back in and respond either here in the live stream or after the fact. because I really think that some of these things will be hitting home for people. So all of that is to say, now we've introduced pivot chats. Let's introduce Allison. So Allison is one of my favorite people. She is wicked funny and deeply committed to her work. So one of the things that I think we have in common is we're total goofballs, and we're also very damn serious about our work. And I think that that comes through in your work. I've been a client of Allison's. I have seen behind the scenes in her business. We've had conversations about her work over the years, and she's just a fantastic human. So she's an intuitive. She started her business as an animal communicator, I believe, and that has been sort of the primary thing that people know her for. It's her thing, and things have shifted slightly. Like on the end result, it's only a slight shift. But it's been a really powerful shift for her this year. And that's what we're here to talk about in terms of the way that her work is changing. But she's a magical intuitive. She has helped me with, I think, every animal that I've ever had, living or gone. And way beyond that, she's helped me from a spiritual perspective and the perspective of my own personal growth and soul growth to really understand some of the ways that the important parts of my life and the important experiences of my life have connected me to what I needed to learn and to where I am now. And I worked with her, I think it was last year, 2021, pretty extensively inside her coaching program. And it was one of the best experiences I have had. And I've done a lot of coaching, and I've done a lot of work with intuitives. And so she comes very highly recommended personally for me. And I know, Allison, that you've had the same kinds of results, kinds of impact on your clients. So what else do you want to say about just what you do and who you are? I'll let you introduce yourself the way that you want.
Yeah, so I am an intuitive spiritual coach. I am a lot of other things. I am an animal communicator, medium, Akashic record practitioner. I kind of connect people with spirit guides. I kind of do all of that jazz in the umbrella of intuitive work. I did start out my business as an animal communicator and as a coach, but the coaching was more in the background. And primarily, I am most well known for animal mediumship, which is what the majority of people come to me for. During their grieving periods and that types of thing. So that is what I am most known for.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Perfect.
But yeah, definitely pivoting.
Definitely pivoting. And I think your story, again, I want to be really clear, like Allison's story is Allison's story, and I'm not trying to trivialize any experience that she's having, but so much of this can be, I know that people will resonate with some of these things. And I think one thing that people will have in common, I know I have in common for my pivots with your pivot, is that the work that you're pivoting to, you've actually been doing for a while now. This is not like, oh, I just took this brand new course and I'm going to now offer this. Like, this is actually part and parcel of something you've been offering for some time. You're very good at it. You have testimonials, you have clients, including myself, inside those programs. And yet, what I think is sort of the surface level is you're really just changing your effort, that's not the right word, like the ratio of time that you spend on it, and the, what's the word I'm looking for? The emphasis, there we go. The emphasis that you're placing in your marketing and in the way that you speak about what your work, you're not talking about yourself as an animal communicator anymore, even though you still do that work. You're speaking about yourself in a different way. So how do you want to just introduce your pivot?
So it's interesting because, I've been essentially a coach my whole life without ever calling myself a coach, but I was always the girl who had the best advice ever. You have a problem, go to Allison. She'll give you the best advice. So, but I really, I've been an animal communicator my whole life. And so I have this incredibly strong bond with animals, and helping people understand the depth of the relationship with their animals most people think it's like, oh, I love my dog, and that's it, right? They don't realize that these animals have been with us lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, and there's a lot more to it than just that. So I really loved helping people in that regard. But what I found recently, and just to back up for a second, it's like every year I change something in my business, right? The feeling comes in my body, right? And I found that it always happens at a particular time of year. So the feeling to change something happens in the springtime, and then it just kind of rolls through the summer. And normally by August, I'm pretty frustrated and annoyed at the fact that I haven't figured it all out yet because it's inefficient. And I like efficiency. So, but I normally come to clarity by the time we get to October. But this time was a little bit different in the sense that, and it's been building and building and building, where I found that my excitement level for animal sessions was like coming down, right? I still enjoy them. I still do them all the time, but it wasn't lighting me up like it used to. And, if I look back, this pivot's probably actually been coming for about 2 years. We're just really in the full throes of it now. But what I started to find was my real joy, my real passion, my real light me up like a Christmas tree is when I get to work with people long term and I get to use everything, right? Because the feeling when I am only doing an animal session, for example, is, it's a sliver of me. It's one little slice out of the Allison pie. And for me to work at my highest level, it's pulling in everything all at the same time.
Can you say what you mean by everything? Because I know, but can you tell everybody else? What do you mean by everything?
So what I mean by everything is that if I am doing coaching with someone, I call in whatever's in their highest and greatest good for the day. So that might mean that during your session, we're in your Akashic records, your dead grandmother Peggy may come through, your living or deceased animals may come through, your higher self will be there, your spirit guides will be there. I may bring in some angels and some archangels, whatever is needed, and holding that container of all of these beings and all of these energies to support you is really what lights me on fire, for a better lack of terms. It's when I can have conversations with all of these beings all at the same time to deliver to you the most powerful, impactful information that I can. That's fun for me. And being a cheerleader is fun for me, and watching people transform is fun for me. I love it. I love holding the container for people over a long-term period. One of the things I do is I offer like Voxer in between sessions. And, the fun thing about holding a coaching container is I'll know when something's happening with you before you've told me something's happening with you. So
100%.
normally I'm texting people on Voxer, or I'm recording a voice memo going, hey, what's going on? You popped into my head. I feel as though there's this, or this, and then my client will go, how did you do that? And it's because I'm holding you in this sacred container to always be there to cheer you on.
And I think the other thing within that, and maybe you said this, but I just want to highlight it, is this is the greatest, most powerful impact you can have in terms of working with a person. This is the VIP treatment, for lack of a better word. This is the, if you want all my magic and the biggest bang for your buck and the biggest bang for your time investment and the biggest bang for just getting into my world, that's where you're going to get so much value, so much support, way more transformation, for lack of a better word, not to diminish the transformation that you could have in a single session specifically related to an animal, to just an animal, right? But I think this is where we all have to get really honest with ourselves in these moments of like, I could keep doing 40,000 animal sessions only, and I know how to really help these people in the way that I can is here in your coaching programs, right? It's called, I know one of them at least is Soul Evolution. So I think it's like elevating, you know, and really thinking about and putting that into where you go from here is what you've done, which is, this is now going to be my focus. This is not just a few people hop into my high ticket program, which I think a lot of people build their businesses around that model, and no judgment around that. And there comes a point where you're like, yeah, but this is what, like, magic wand, if this is all you want to do, or mostly all you want to do, full permission to do that. And I think you're so beautifully good at listening to yourself. Like you said, you felt it in your body, like, ooh. And you weren't saying, I hate doing animal communication now and I'm going to drop it and I don't want to do, like, no, we've got your cat running around all over the place. My cat always comes in when we talk. Like, you are an animal magician. You really are a communicator, and that's not changing.
Right.
And you notice that tiny shift in your excitement. And that is something that I think when we don't pay attention to it. So actually, I want to ask you like a really weird question.
Okay.
So not love and light.
Permission to be weird.
This is so not love and light. Like, can we, have you ever seen the movie Sliding Doors? I think it's called, with Gwyneth Paltrow, where like they basically follow one moment in her life where she makes a decision, and then they track both of those, what would have happened in either if she had made the decision or if she didn't make the decision. Okay. So like, I'm just going to like doom and gloom it. Worst case scenario, what would have happened if you hadn't listened to yourself this summer or the spring, when you were like it starts as a whisper, right? Like, oh, I feel it in my body. I still like doing them, but I just don't love it the way that I love this other work. What would have happened if you hadn't made the decision to shift focus?
Well, knowing my guides, they would have made something happen in my body that would have made me switch. Because they love doing that sort of thing. And it's, how do I want to describe it? Because I'm not dumping animal communication. Nope.
Still doing it. Still enjoying it.
Still enjoying, absolutely. Yes. I still love animal communication. But I love animal communication more when I get to mix it with everything else instead of as a standalone thing, right? Because there's only so far you can go.
Exactly.
Right? Like, you can have an amazing life transformational experience with an animal communication session, but you're leaving like a whole buffet table of information behind.
Yep.
And just not even looking at it, right? So I think if I hadn't listened,
a bunch of hearts right now. Yep.
I think if I hadn't listened, I would just honestly become more and more miserable. I would probably be feeling stuck. I would be feeling as though something's missing, right? But like, having the blinders on is really easy to do, right? Yep. To just keep the blinders on, be like, everything's fine, right? Even though in your body it's like, no, it's not.
Something is not. Yeah. And I think like, let's follow, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Yeah. Can we follow that even further? Like, if I think about what, if we were to take your business without you and stick it on a piece of paper and stick it in front of a bunch of MBA students studying business, your business was fine. There were no problems. This is not a marketing problem. This is not you. There were no problems. And so it could have been considered a risk, right? To shift focus, to stop talking about the thing that you are so known for, right? And that really is a big part of your magic. It's just you're magic. Hey, guess what? You're a soul and you've grown because you do your work, you walk your talk, and you've grown as a person, as a soul, and as a practitioner. And you are in a place where for a while now, you have really spent more time holding the whole container of the everyone and the everything. And so I just think it's not, you know, if we use this as a practical business case and we take the Allison out of it, we're missing the boat. And that's why I want to have these conversations, because nothing was wrong with your business, right? And yet this was absolutely the right choice for you. And you've made a really good business decision and marketing decision and business model decision, which will serve you in actually making more money, right? Because a single animal session versus a coaching session, everybody, a coaching program that's long-term. Okay, we all get that from a money perspective. But it wasn't, you know, but because everybody knows you for that. And that's where the money and the people and the ongoing everything in your businesses happen. You know, that's where I think, and you just got the little whisper to start, right? There was nothing slapping you in the face that there was some big problem, but you've learned to listen to those moments of like,
absolutely.
Oh, it's just a shift down, but it's enough to make me pay attention.
Yeah, because it was like, oh, I have an animal session, right? Like it's kind of flat, right? And it's not like I don't love doing them, because I do, because animals are amazing to talk to. And I have amazing clients from doing animal sessions, who a lot of whom have transitioned with me into either different sessions, Akashic record sessions, or into my coaching program. But it was more like, I don't want to describe, the feeling is I'm literally disconnecting myself from 90% of me. If I do, sorry, Kat.
No, she's fine. Let her go.
If I do just an animal session, it's literally like I have to unplug from the rest of me, because all this other stuff wants to happen. All this other magic wants to happen. But if someone's just lost their pet and all they want is an animal session, they don't want anything else. They just want to talk to their best friend. Right. And so I literally have to disconnect part of me to do just that, which feels almost uncomfortable, is how I want to describe it. It's almost like
it's a watering down, right? It's a watering down of what you, I don't even want to say can do, but like of what you do best. And like Gay Hendricks would say, you know, your everything, your soul evolution, your coaching, your long-term programs with people is your zone of genius. That's like the thing. And that I'm just going to put it this way, a single animal communication session is in your zone of excellence. You're super fucking good at it. You do love it. You're known for it. You're really good at it. And to follow the Gay Hendricks sort of way that he looks at the world is like, he would say a lot of people get stuck in their zone of in their zone of excellence, because for you in the animal, if you had stayed only animal, because they are good at it. They are good at it. They do love it. Or like it. And they get feedback from others. Like, thank you. I'm going to send you a friend because she wants to talk to her dead dog too, blah, blah, blah. And then you're just stuck, and fulfillment and true joy and ongoing creating, which I think those of us who are entrepreneurs are here to do, means that you have to keep spending more and more time in your zone of genius. Doesn't mean you can't do zone of excellence, but it just means continuing over time to move more and more into that zone of genius and to develop that zone of genius, which is the other thing that you've been doing over the years.
Absolutely. Because, you know, what I've always done and who I've always been is a channel.
It doesn't have to just be one way. Yeah.
Right. And I can't just like turn the faucet off and like, la, 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 I don't hear you. Right. Because that's how I became the girl who gives the great advice my whole life. Right. Was I'm a channel first and foremost. And I'm a channel for animals. I'm a channel for whomever. But trying to tamp it down to just fit into one sliver of a pie, just, you know, it doesn't feel good. I love doing animal readings. Animals are always going to be part of my sessions, whether it's soul evolution and intuitive
100%.
session. They're always going to come in because I can't shut them off either, right? They're a part of me too. But I want to do what lights me up, and I want to do what makes the biggest impact in people's lives.
Yeah.
You know, when you help someone connect dots with a bunch of random things that in the moment don't make any sense, and they're stuck and they're confused and they don't know where they're going and they don't know why this is happening, or why do I feel like my life is falling apart? Why am I unfulfilled? Right. And you can go in and connect dots, and then it's all like light bulb moment after light bulb moment. And then it's like, oh, it all makes sense now. Right. And it just switches everything. And I get to cheer you on for that, which is like the best part to me.
And you're not limited, right? You can just use your genius however it works in that moment perfectly for you and for that person.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, because something I've asked you this before, but I'm curious about how you, and I'm curious even how you'll answer this versus, like, I don't know, last time we talked 2 or 3 weeks ago, but I think for many people, myself included. So I started my business being a hypnotherapist, and I, within 2 or 3 months, only focused on entrepreneurs. So I'm really kind of always from afar done the same work. And obviously I've pivoted because I don't use hypnotherapy, but at all anymore. People are still bugging me to record a meditation for them. And I'm like, I could absolutely do it. I'm really good at it. I actually am thinking about recording one for myself because I feel that I don't love what's out there in the world right now, but like, I don't want to record one for someone else. It doesn't light me up. It's not gross. It's not horrible. Hypnotherapy was my first love. And it's how I got into this. And it supported me in so many ways. And I still use so much of what I learned in hypnotherapy school and what I learned when I was using it as a practitioner. I still use all of that to support my clients. But when I shifted, I had a similar sort of, it's not lighting me up as much. And I found myself just doing a bunch of true coaching. And then it just kind of shifted and shifted and shifted and shifted and shifted gradually. And then one day I look back and I was like, I don't know when the last time I used hypnosis was. And I got really sad. Like, it was my true love. It's how I got myself into this space. It's how I finally, for me, fell in love with what I do for a living. Because I will share my story later, but I spent a lot of time in corporate waiting to fall in love with my work. And I just didn't, I liked it. I had moments, but I wasn't in love with it. And so hypnotherapy is what brought me to love my work. And it's so beautiful. And I have such a special connection to that. But there was a sadness, there was a almost confusion, around it. And I wonder, because I know a lot of other people have had moments of sadness. And I think that you answered this question differently than I thought you were going to when I asked you this the other day. Have you felt sad about, you're not letting go of animal communication, but about shifting your focus? Have you felt sad about it?
No. No.
Right? Because I want to normalize that we have all kinds of experiences, right? It's okay to feel sad and it's okay not to. So tell me why. I think it's fascinating.
Well, because the animals are just coming with me. Right. So even in the animal communications sessions that I'm still doing, right? The patterning and the trend that's been going on for quite some time now is the animals are like, hey, let's talk about past lives together. Right. Or, hey, let's talk about the creation story that Joan and I had, right? Picking random names. And that actually led me to create a whole Akashic record session called Animal Adventures in the Akash, where it's like another step in animal communication, where like you have your regular animal communication. Then there's this, where I open the records of the person and the animal and we go on adventures together. Super duper fun, right?
I love it.
So the animals are just coming with me.
Yeah.
Nothing, has shifted based on the person, right? Like some people are going to
have the animals coming with you. Mine just entered the premises. Yeah.
Of course. Hi, George. So, the animals will stick to what that person needs in the moment, but the trend is more and more animals are like, hey, let's talk about this. Or one of my most recent ones that I just did, which was super fun for me, was the cat was like, okay, you got to tell her. And I'm like, really? She's going to think I'm nuts. You really want me to tell her? And the cat was like, tell her. And I was like, are you aware that you're a witch? Right?
So
kind of deer in the headlights at first, but then you could see the flicker of recognition happening. And so the animals are just flowing with me in a different capacity, almost bringing their people to, hey, let's go do this. Because we can do so much more together. So the animals are full on involved. So there's been no grief.
I love it. So they're helping you make this shift and this pivot.
Yeah.
Like
and they are
your minions, they're like, oh,
they're
going to do an animal session. Great. We're gonna do an animal session ish, and we're gonna start to shift.
Right. We're gonna start bringing you to deeper levels because this is where you need to go. Right.
Which I just love too, because Allison, like from the way that I see things from a spiritual perspective, and anybody who is listening, like take it however you want and make your own rules around this. But like, I feel that like you making this decision, you're so beautifully supported, as always, right? We're always supported, but I think it's just evidence that helps our human brains to feel safe. You're so beautifully supported in following your fire, right? To use your word, like following what lights you up like a Christmas tree. And then you've got like the actual support of the guides and the souls and the animals that you work with supporting you in the pivot. But also I would kind of also want to say you're clearly, just even in the short time since you've made this pivot, you're clearly already attracting different people, because if you were attracting people whose level of personal and soul growth was simply communicating with their animals, and no judgment there, we all have to be met where we are, they probably wouldn't be having those conversations, right? And so, and not to say that everybody is and there's a right or a wrong, but I just think that probably means you're attracting more and more coaching clients, or coaching client, you can't serve everybody in the world, right? But like people in that ballpark that would be really good for soul evolution or for your coaching programs, because they're already coming to you in that way too. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I think once you start to notice the shift in the people you're attracting, whether those people are, friends or animal sessions or discovery calls, they start to shift, and there's your evidence right there.
Absolutely. And a lot of the clients that, I've been getting, I'd say probably over the last year, have really been a lot more open and curious. And I love curious people. And I love people who are open to new things. And so, it's definitely been like this transition of like, but hey, that was really cool. I want to go deeper. How do I go deeper? Right? Because then it's almost like you get the taste and you're like, but wait, there's more?
Yeah.
Right? And then it's like, oh my God, there's so much more.
I love it. I love it.
No idea how much help you have in the world.
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to just check, because I had a couple questions I wanted to ask you about this piece. You answered so many of my questions. Can we talk a little bit about your point about, because I had made a note about this too from our last conversation, but you were talking about, I love, by the way, I want to just highlight too for my cat, for people who've gone through this process. Like, I love that you find that there's a time of year where you start to have shifts and pivots, or like little, like sometimes they could be big, they could be small, but like, I think that's really interesting. Not everybody's going to have that, but I think it's really important to know yourself so that you can continue to sort of navigate these as you go. But the other thing that you said about this process is that it was inefficient. And can you just talk, whatever you feel comfortable sharing, but I think it is inefficient. Like, it is absolutely inefficient. Like, can you talk a little bit about what that has felt like for you, either this pivot or, in prior years?
Yeah, so it's important to know about me that I am a ridiculously efficient person, okay? I am the person who does self-checkout, who has all the barcodes up, and I'm just going, use it right in and out. That's how I roll. So every year when I go through my yearly transition, whatever it may look like on any given year, I had mentioned it starts in the spring, normally April or May timeframe, as I'll start getting like this feeling. And then by August, normally I'm really, really frustrated and annoyed at myself because I haven't gotten all of the answers yet. Mm-hmm. And I think it makes it even harder when you're a professional intuitive, that you're like, oh my God, why haven't I gotten all the answers yet? Right? It's like, because
aren't you supposed to have all the answers? You're not human, right?
Like, exactly. Yeah. And so normally by then, and you have heard me gripe about this, mm-hmm. I'm like, for the love of God, can I just get the answers already?
Yeah. Right.
Because now I'm annoyed that I don't have the answers, and that it's taking me so long to get all the puzzle pieces to put the puzzle together. Yeah. And so in my body, it builds up like this frustration and mm-hmm. this annoyance, which is amplified by the fact that I'm psychic and I can get everybody else the answers they need all day long for anything. Doesn't matter what the question is. But for myself, I have to sit here and patiently wait. Yeah. It's very frustrating.
Thank you for sharing that so honestly, because you're an intuitive, you're a psychic, you download this shit for a living, like you said, for other people. And that's not to say that you don't also work with your guides and right. And receive information too. And I always feel that, like, even people who are not channels and who haven't honed that skill the way that you have, and I used to use that as well in my work and one of my pivots, I think we're all intuitive at some level. We're all receiving information. It just depends on how we like decide, how to talk about it and look at it and frame it. But I think, I just want to normalize that for you. I know we've had this conversation, but also for the people listening, when they're like, well, shit, if this girl doesn't have all the answers. No, none of us have all the answers. We're human. Right. And part of, I think, the way that we become more resilient in these experiences is by understanding ourselves. And just like, I think a grief process is same person experiencing it, losing different people over my lifetime. I have had very different grief processes, and I've had very different grief experiences. So not to say that it's a copy paste, but I think entrepreneurship in particular, we start to notice, oh, here's how I can get in my own way. Or, oh, here's that little whisper that you probably listened to this year faster than you listened to it the year before, right? This is that same feeling I have in my body. Okay, I don't like it. I want the answers. I'm ready for the result, move on already. And the more we can remember this about ourselves and how we process it, like I oftentimes have grief. You didn't have grief in this example, right? Knowing that about yourself, next time I feel some grief, I will at least know that, okay, yeah, I felt this way before. This is what happens sometimes. Oh, maybe I'm in a pivot, right? Because sometimes when we don't realize we're in a pivot, we can also really put expectations, unrealistic expectations on ourselves, which is, I think, what you were doing. Right? Like, just to give you all the love in the world, like you're expecting yourself to be subhuman or superhuman, and you're still human, even though you have all the access. Right. And I think too, like, full disclosure, the reason that pivot chats became a thing was born out of my pivot this summer. And I was like, oh my God, I do this for a living. And here I go again. But guess what? Having a pivot isn't something that's remedial, and because I was doing it wrong before, and it actually means I've grown and expanded, and it's time for me to sort of line my business, next chapter of my business, up with the next chapter of the me that's out there offering the service. And so you know, same, I can walk my clients through a pivot, you know, like it's my job, because it is, and I'm really good at it. And it does, you know, I still have to go through my own, and it doesn't mean that my pivots aren't messy just because I help people pivot, right? Like it's still the
exactly. And I think, like, for me, you know, the biggest thing, and you know, hindsight's always 2020, right? So I can look back at other years and be like, oh yeah, I finally surrendered. And then the rest of the pieces came in, and they came in at my favorite time of year, because fall is when I come alive. And so when I surrendered this year in like August, I just kind of threw my hands up and went, all right, whatever. It's going to come when it comes. I don't have any control over it. You know, my guides are only going to give me what they want to give me in that moment in time.
Yep.
And I just got to let it go.
And do you remember what you did in that time period?
No,
one of the things, you took vacation.
Oh yeah, I did.
You took time off.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Like, I felt like that was so much part of you being like, I really do surrender, because I'm just going to like,
I totally did. I'm like, I give up. That's it. It's over. And then of course, like by the end of September, I was like, oh, okay, we're in the fall. I'm coming alive again. And boom, 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 boom. Right. It all started clicking together, because I have found that that's my pattern.
Yep.
Right. Starts in the spring. I go all the way through the summer being annoyed as hell that I haven't figured it out. And then by the time I get to the fall, I have all the answers, or at least 90% of them.
I was going to say, can you clarify that? Yeah. You know enough to move forward.
Exactly. I know enough on what action to take, even though I'm still finessing is the word I'm being guided to use.
I like that word. I like that word.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with somebody the other day, and she said something, I'm going to butcher it, but she said something like, no pivot is ever 100% complete. We're all like, if we're sort of done with it, we're still only at 90%.
Yeah.
And I thought that's so beautiful, because we otherwise just want to wait until we have perfect. No, there is no all the answers. There is no like, we're moving forward. And I think that's what you've done so beautifully this fall. I just want to honor you for that. And then the other word that you used that I would love for you to share with people is like, because you talked about like your path, your pattern has been the pattern that you just described. And then the other piece that happened when you were talking about the clicking, blah, 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 to me, I feel like what you did especially when you surrendered, maybe also because you took some time off, maybe also because you know yourself. And like you said, you were like, okay, it'll come. I'm just going to let it be. Then you started telling me that you were an energetic ninja. Do you remember saying that?
I do vaguely remember that.
Do you know what that you meant? I mean, I can say what you told me, but do you remember what you meant by that?
I think that was in relation to the fall, wasn't it? How I feel in the fall.
Because the stuff you were like getting all the ideas now, and then oh, that's where that idea that I had the other day that I didn't know what to do with, it fits with this one, right? And bing, boom, 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 like you were clicking your fingers a minute ago. Like, I love that you were calling yourself an energetic ninja, because I like that phrase.
That's what happens in the fall. Like, you get me to like, I hate the summer. I can't stand summer. I can't stand the heat. So you get me to the fall and I like come alive. It is my time.
Yep.
And so, that's when I am most energetically, hold on, I want to get the words from my guide. Most energetically open to receive, to process, and to take action.
Beautiful.
Is then.
Beautiful.
Because then if you don't take the action, right, then nothing happens. So like you have to take the action.
Thank you.
Even if it doesn't make sense, you have to take the action.
Yes. So I want to ask you, I want for you to be able to share with people a little bit about your coaching programs, because we've been talking about it and then like talking about it, but I want you to be able to talk about it like with some specifics or whatever you want to share. So that the people who are listening, who know somebody who should be your client, or if they feel like they're compelled to work with you, I want to make sure that those people can make that connection to you. And by the way, we're going to be sharing all of Allison's information, links and all the stuff in the comments afterwards. So don't worry, that will come. But before we get to that, I just briefly want to ask you, like, if you think about this pivot in particular,
Mhm.
what for you are you the most proud of so far?
That's a good question. I would have to say honoring myself and honoring my own fulfillment, my own joy, because it's so easy to want to do what other people want you to do.
Yes.
Right. And like, it's so
And you're in a
easy,
giving profession.
right, to just be like, oh, I have to stay here because this is where the people want me to stay, or this, right. So I think it's really, really easy, you know, especially as a woman, we tend to just be givers anyway, and we want to make people happy. So I think in this case, it was really the fact that I honored myself, that I acknowledged what really makes me happy, what I'm really naturally so good at, and that I just said, F it. I'm just gonna do it, right? Because from the outside, it's not a big change.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
Right? People can still book single sessions, animal communication. They can still book single intuitive sessions. The only difference is where my attention and my energy is going. Because single sessions are great, but they're only ever going to get you so far.
Right.
So,
and I think you've changed your availability around those, and you have plans for how you're going to continue to change that availability, right? So that you are also focusing more time, not just in your marketing, right? But also that you have the time and space, you know, for more long-term clients, and over time, fewer and fewer spaces on your calendar will be.
Right. Absolutely.
Sessions, right.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because if, you know, we're all here to make an impact, right? In one way, shape, or form. And, you know, for me, it was figuring out, okay, this is really the most natural thing for me. It's what I've been doing my whole entire life. So why do I need to keep myself boxed in when I don't like being boxed in?
Yeah. And thank you for saying that about the other people, because I think it's so easy when we are focused on making a big impact and and serving our clients, right? But one of the hardest things I think sometimes about client service is you could give them exactly what they're asking for, but they don't always know, quote unquote, what they need. At the same time, like, let's just full permission, like everybody knows what they need, want, everybody knows what's in their highest and greatest good for themselves as well, not to like put a dependency on ourselves as client service providers. But I think, just my little disclaimer, but I think, you know, if you're coming to me as an expert in something, if you're coming to me as, what do you think, where would you advise me? How shall I look at this? We are actually like, and any of us, not just, you know, I think anybody's in a helping profession if you really pay attention.
Right.
We have some sort of ethical responsibility to, if we are going to strive to serve people at the greatest level that we can, that is actually includes giving them what we know is best for them, giving them what we know is our genius, not just giving them some watered down slice. What did you call it? A sliver of your magic, right? Like again, not to say that you can't offer that, but then now your business model is just simply moving people along that path, and they can come and get a taste test, and they can come and work with you when it's appropriate. But the people who really want the deep transformation will hop into your coaching programs.
Right. Absolutely.
And that's your opportunity to serve them at the greater level, at the greatest level that you can. And hey, guess what? It also is what lights you up there. Christmas tree.
Yeah,
like, it really works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
okay.
It's all about serving at your highest.
Right. Okay. So I want to give you a chance. What would you like people to know about your coaching programs and how they can find you? And I think you had a special something for this group.
Yeah. So my Soul Evolution program is the program that we've been discussing today. It is either done in a 3-month or a 7-month program. So it's 2 times a month. And I love working with intuitive people. Some of them kind of know they're intuitive, but they don't know how intuitive they are.
Mm-hmm.
I love working with people who are open and curious, who really want to have a self-discovery, right? Because when we can connect dots from previous lifetimes to your current lifetime, to the soul lessons you're here to work on, to aspects of you that are getting in your way, when we can work on that and connect the dots and shift some of the outdated belief systems, it's really all about helping you to become empowered, right? And to feel what I like to tell my clients is my job is to try to make you Teflon. So where you can be so rooted and grounded in your being that whatever is happening around you no longer has any bearing on how you move through the world, right? Yes. Because I think it's so important, especially nowadays, there's so many people feeling disempowered, feeling like everything is out of control, whether it's in their own life, the political landscape, the world, right? Mm-hmm. Take your pick at this point. Yep. I think it's even more important for people to harness their own power and to realize that they have a lot more control over their lives and what happens to them than they think they do. And that is a big component of what I do. The other way I kind of like to describe it is using a hurricane, and how the hurricane, everything is going crazy. And then you get to the eye, and what's in the eye? It's calm, it's peaceful, it's normally sunny. There's no wind, right? It's just peace. And my goal is to get people to that place where they're so comfortable in their own skin and with their own experiences and harnessing gifts that maybe they don't even know they have. That's what I love doing. And that's love helping people get there.
I've seen you do it. It's absolutely what you do. You're so talented and so gifted. And I'm so happy that you made the decision to create this business and to do this work, because it's needed. It's so needed. The empowerment piece, especially, I mean, all of everything that you just talked about, but I think there's a lot of, you're right, there's a lot of disempowerment going on. And when we can come back to ourselves, that's where we remember who we really are. And I think that's what you do so beautifully. And I will just add to that. I've worked with a lot of intuitives and related people in my life. I'm very, very open to all of this. I have been paid a little bit for some of my intuitive abilities, and Allison is the real deal. She is one of the most potent and powerful and gifted people at being able to deliver a message in a way that you can take it and understand it and know what to do with it. Very actionable work with Allison. It's not just, it's not just information. There's real grounded growth and actionable, changes that I have seen. So we will put your information. Oh, what's your special? Do you have a special discount for these?
I do have a special for my peeps here.
Bring it.
So I am offering 15% off a single session. So it could be a single 60 or 90-minute animal session or a 60 or 90-minute intuitive session. The intuitive session is just, you get me, whatever wants to come through. You can, of course, request if you would like, an Akashic record reading. If you do have a special request, you can always bring that. Otherwise, I'll just deliver what's in your highest and greatest good for that day. And so, yeah, that is going on till November 5th. Laura will post the coupon codes in the chat or whatever.
And I'll put it in all the comments. And then if people are interested in soul evolution, how can they start that process? Or maybe they don't know, maybe they have questions. They want to talk about their
absolutely. They can book. I have a free 30-minute discovery call that is available that you can book on my book online page. If you are curious about whether soul evolution is right for you, or if we are in alignment to work together, at this juncture in your life, you can absolutely book a free 30-minute call. I would love to chat with you and see how I can be of service to you.
Perfect. All right, my dear and sneakers. Thank you so much.
Sleeping.
I love it. Thank you for being my first interviewee or guest. Thank you for sharing so honestly and so beautifully about what you do, about what your process has been. And I know that this is going to help lots of people, whether they need to work with you, whether they're going through a similar pivot or transition, or wherever they are in their process, even if, and especially if their process doesn't look like yours did, right? Because we all have different processes and ways of navigating these kinds of experiences. But I think my hope, my intention, and now that we've just had this conversation, my knowledge is that this is going to help those of us who are out there doing our special thing, trying to change the world at whatever the next level is. So thank you. That's helping me further my mission. So thank you with that.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right, guys, we are going to sign off. I have a really great guest next week as well, who's going to talk about why and how she knew it was absolutely right for her to close one of her businesses. It's not a thing that a lot of people are talking about. A lot of people are out there telling you why not to burn it down. But sometimes that's actually the right answer. And so that's what we're going to be talking about next week. Thank you so much. And we will see you then.